Today I have taken up a new topic called the role of private sector in the Indian economy. An article was published in the Hindu newspaper with the title Liberal Economics Creates Illiberal Societies by Arun Mehra, and he has given the solution for the establishment of Gandhian socialism powered by cooperative economic enterprises. So I have chosen this topic. Why the author was compelled to write such type of article? When our country became independent in 1947, the Cold War started between two superpowers, one led by the USA and the other by the Soviet Union. And in the economic world, a new economic order was established under the leadership of the USA, and the important organs of this new economic order were World Bank, IMF, and General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. So under the leadership of USA, and this new economic order still persists in the world economy, and now it is being challenged by the Chinese leadership. So what we see, that when our country became independent, our planners, our leaders did not want foreign direct investment into India, fearing that it will bring neo-colonialism and thereby will choke our nascent industry. After a hard battle for 200 years, India got independence from the British imperialism. So India did not want to fall into the trap of neo-colonialism, and that's why India started or chartered its own course in the sphere of economic activities. And the new policy was the mixed economy, where there will be the coexistence of public sector and private sector. By the policy resolution in 1956, government cleared that it wants public sector to achieve the commanding heights in the Indian economy. And so it gave lot of preference, lot of investment into the public sector. It was also thought that higher growth will trickle down to the lowest rung of the society, thereby benefiting the downtrodden people, grassroots people. But this did not happen. The trickle down effect was minimal, number one. Number two, the public sector started having constant loss since 1980. Its saving rate was very much low. There was underutilization, wastage of resources, bureaucratization, and the profit was very much minimum. It could not compete with the foreign countries. And that's why what you see, that in 1991, government was compelled to open its economy. Although it was a coincidence because of the Iraq war, the price of oil escalated, thereby causing unfavorable balance of trade in the economy. And secondly, because of the high price of petroleum products, the inflation went too much high, around 13%, beyond the capacity of common man. And so, government was compelled to open its economy. And that's why in 1991, government started a new economic policy, NAP, which is also called LPG, liberalization, privatization and globalization, whereby the tariff was cut down, foreign direct investment was allowed, and our economy was to be integrated with the world economy. So these are the main features of LPG model of our economy. Now let us see, because of privatization, the role of private sector in our economy became very much prominent, and that's why I have chosen this topic, the role of private sector in Indian economy. So our lesson plan includes number 1, introduction, second, concept and significance, third, corporate sector and foreign direct investment, fourth, role of private sector in development, fifth, problem of private sectors, sixth, weaknesses of private sector, and finally conclusion. What is private sector? Ownership and the management is done by the private players, guided by personal initiative and profit motive. As you know, there are 3 ways to conduct economic activity. Number 1 is public sector, which is controlled and guided by the government of the day. Second is private sector, which is controlled and guided by private players, capitalists. And third is joint sector. By a collaboration of so many investors, so many capitalists, government may or may not be the party in that joint venture, but its share will be less than 50%. So there are 3 types of ventures, like public sector, private sector and joint sector, by which economic activities are run in a country. So now what we see, that private sector means to manage the affairs of company by private players, and its chief motive is to get maximum profit. And secondly, India registered healthy growth in the capital expenditure during the first 3 quarters of financial year 2022. And what we see, the importance of private sector is increasing day by day. The just data shown in the Hindu newspaper, it shows, number 1, the capital expenditure during the first 3 quarters of 2002 financial year was around over 7,700. New projects worth 12.76 lakh crore were announced, which is 47% higher than the financial year 2020. Now, however, the private sector undertook much of the capital expenditure. In comparison, the public sector registered a contraction in fresh investment plan. So, student, what we see, that is, there is a reversal of role. From 1950 to 1991, it was a dominance or predominance role of public sector, where more and more investment were done in public sector by government. But now what we see, that there is a role reversal. Here now private sector gets more investment and the outlay for public sector is less. So there is a contraction in fresh investment plans. Gujarat gets the highest investment amounting to 2.31 lakh crore rupees, cornering 18% of the total investment. And next, Maharashtra was allocated 1.51 lakh crore. The maximum investment are to be done in the sector like manufacturing, mining, electricity, infrastructure and irrigation. So what we see, that there is a contraction as far as the investment in infrastructure by public sector is concerned. Why? Because of the pandemic, corona, government has cut its expenditure because government is not getting adequate income. Because of so many obstruction in the economic activities on account of pandemic corona for the last 2 years. So now I go to the next heading, concept and significance. As I have already told you that once India became independent, it adopted the policy of mixed economies, the coexistence of public sector and private sector, whereby the public sector will get primacy and will achieve the commanding heights in the economy. And for 30 to 35 years, government fully relied upon the performance of public sector, gave too much importance to public sector, but public sector could not stand the test of time. Its profitability was minimal. It could not compete with the foreign countries. Bureaucratization was too much, wastage of resources was too much, overstaffing was there, and so the margin of profit was very much minimum. Saving was less, and so it obstructed the capital formation, which is the basic element for the investment in an economy. Liberalization was started, as I have told you, in 1991, whereby so many sectors in economy was opened. FDI was invited. The tariff was cut down. And the purpose was to integrate our economy with the world economy. Role of public sector diluted because of, I have already told you, that constant loss making. Number 2, lower contribution in the national saving. 3rd, poor capacity utilization. 4th, overstaffing, bureaucratization and the wastage of scarce resources. Once this LPG model was started in India, its followed were, number 1, raise the competition from the foreign firms, particularly the MNCs. Domestic producers suffered the shrinking of market because of their high prices and because of the poor quality of their products. But the corporate sector expanded. So these are the special features of the privatization of Indian economy since 1991. Now, corporate sector and foreign direct investment. This is our another heading. After liberalization started in 1991, FDI flows into India grew rapidly from 133 crores to 16,633 crores in 2008, 133 crores in 1951, India has registered highest ever annual foreign direct investment inflow of $81.97 billion in 2020-21. FDI inflows in the last 7 financial year are over 440 billion American dollar, which is nearly 58% of the total FDI inflow in the last 21 financial year. And this is the quarterly data for 2021 financial year. And what we see in April 2021, this one is about around 7,000 crore dollar. Next, increase in the process of economic growth. In 1951 to 81, growth of NNP was 3.4%, and the growth rate of per capita income was 1.2%. That was very much minimal. And why minimal? Because of the rise of the population rapidly during 1951 to 81. There was one factor. And so what you see in 2004 to 2009, the growth of NNP reached 8.8%, and growth rate of per capita income reached to 7.2%. Per capita national income in India, financial year 2015 to 2021, India's per capita net national income or NNI was around 126,000 rupees in financial year 2021. In contrast, the gross national income at constant prices stood at over 128 trillion rupees. The previous year, GNI growth rate at constant prices was around 6.6%. By 2009-2010, the growth rate in India was more than 9%. Student, as you know, that for the last 30 years, from 1980 to 2010, the economy of China grew at the rate of 10% for 30 years. And that's why the Chinese economy increased so much within a span of 30 years. Thereafter, its growth rate slumped down to 6%, 7%. Now, in this year, what we see, only 4% according to newspaper report. But the Chinese economy is now around 18 trillion American dollar. Because even after pandemic, its economy now bounced back and is on the right track of getting more than 7 to 8% annual growth rate. So what we see, that the sectoral growth rate in 2007 to 12, agriculture 4%, industry 10%, services 9.11%, in all total 9% high growth rate I will told you was achieved. A structural change in the economy. What is? In 2009, the contribution of agriculture in GDP was 17%. Industry 25.8%, manufacturing 18.3%, services 57.20%. This is the data about the structural changes in 2009. But student, as you know, that today the contribution of agriculture in the GDP of India is around 14%, while for China it is 9%. Around 42.6% people still live on agriculture. It means half of the population have the only source of livelihood on agriculture and its allied activities. The role of agriculture is very much important, and that's why Government of India set a target of doubling the income of farmers by 2024, because the Western model cannot be applied in our country. Our country has huge population. In Western country, what we see, America, it has 30 crore population, whereby Indian population is now projected around 140 crore. So more than 3 times than that of the population of America. It's 2% people are dependent upon agriculture. And the contribution of agriculture in the GDP of America is not more than 2%. But in our case, what we see that for more than 42.6% people, it is only agriculture and activities are only the source of their livelihood. And that's why government set the target of doubling the income of farmers so that their standard of living should match with other countries. So now we switch over to another heading, role of private sector in development. What are the important role that private sector has played during this 30 years after the liberalization? Number one, poverty alleviation. Student, as you know, that because of the intervention of Government of India and other states, people below the poverty line were uplifted in a massive way. More than 70 to 80 crore people now have been lifted above the poverty line. And in this poverty alleviation program, the role of private sector cannot be minimized, because private sector also helped in creating large number of jobs, number one, promoting innovations, number three, increasing productivity. As student, as you know, whenever there is increase in productivity, this enhanced productivities have a cascading effect upon different sectors of the economy, upon different walks of life. And people, particularly the downtrodden people, are very much affected by the increasing growth of the productivity, because it creates more and more jobs, white collar jobs, green, blue collar jobs. And so the people of lowest rung get maximum benefit out of the increasing growth in productivity. Next, private sector raises the living standard and promotes opportunities. Employment, what you see on the front of employment, as I have already told you that India is a vast country having second largest population, residing around 17 to 18% of the total world population, but having a small chunk of area, 2.4% land of the total world. And so unemployment is the biggest problem that India is still facing. And so on the front of employment, number one, in 2007 the contribution of private sector and its share was 35%, around 93 lakhs out of 273 crore. Second, employment in services, percent of total employment model ILO in India was reported at 32.3% in 2020 according to the World Bank collection of development indicators. Agriculture, as you know, that agriculture is in private sector. Agriculture and its allied activities like animal husbandry, poultry, fisheries, forestry, all these activities which are connected with lands are called agriculture and allied activities. Now what you see, in agriculture 42.6% people are engaged in agriculture, and its contribution in the GDP of Indian economy is 14%. Similarly, in trading, this is totally in either wholesale or retail trading. In both front, private sector plays a prominent role. public sector or the activities of government is minimal in this field. And similarly in education field, we see that lakhs, thousands and thousands of colleges, schools were opened by private players, whereby it gave avenues for those students who could not get admission into government colleges, schools. On the front of the universalization of education, the role of private sector cannot be minimized. Similarly, on the front of health, private players opened so many hospitals, so many doctors were appointed in those hospitals. Their service are very much excellent in comparison to the service given by government hospitals. And so on the health front, what we see that the private players have played active role. Now we switch over to another heading, problem of private sector. What are the problems that private sectors are facing? Number one is profit motive. The most important motive for the private player is to earn profit. This is their primary motive, and so this is also a constraint. Secondly, they just want to produce consumer durables for the use of, for the utility of higher classes. They want to produce luxurious goods for the consumption by higher classes, by rich people. They do not want to invest in capital intensive industries. Why? Because in those industries there is requirement of huge amount of money. Secondly, it requires long gestation period, and thereafter it start functioning and then giving producing. So they do not want to invest in capital goods industry. That capital goods industries are the backbone of the industrialization of a country. After independence, what we saw, that the ratio between the capital goods industry and consumer industry was 33% and 66%. The Britishers deliberately avoided to install capital goods industries for the sake of their own domestic industries, and so they gave, or they focused more on consumer goods industry rather than on capital goods industry. Here what we see, that private players also insist, also gives primacy on the consumer durables. Next is monopoly concentration of wealth. What do you see? A student, that one of the problem that private sector is facing, that monopoly and concentration of wealth in a few hands. The present position is that 1% of the people have 22% of the national income. Similarly, the our top 10% have 57% of the national income. So you can see that how much our society is unequal. Our society, Indian society, has become a glaring example of inequalities, where the gap between rich and poor is widening day by day. And so this is a very disturbing fact. And since independence from 1947 to 80, what we see, that although the growth rate was not too much, but the gap between the rich and the poor was reducing, coming down. Now, after the introduction of LPG model, I mean liberalization, privatization, globalization, what you see? That the gap is widening with the passage of every day. So, monopoly and concentration of wealth in few hands, and now industrial disputes. Student, as you know, that one of the important motive of private players is that they want to earn as much as profit as they can. So there arises a tussle between the interest of labor and between the interest of capitalist or the owner of the company or factory. Now they have these factory owners started taking contract labor, hiring contractors, and so the power of bargaining of the trade unions now has come down, and this is also a very bad impact of liberalization or privatization in India. So what you see, there is a frequent industrial disputes which causes loss in the production. Again, a steep competition from foreign companies and MNCs. Student, as you know, that since the opening of Indian economy for foreign direct investment, most of the large MNCs have entered into India, and these MNCs have wider network, wealth power. Our industry, with the exception of a few industrial houses like Tata, Birla, Ambani's, others can't match with the power of MNCs. One example is enough to tell you. Apple, which makes mobile phone, now its wealth has reached to $3 trillion. The GDP of India is $3 trillion. So what you see, the Apple, its wealth is now $3 trillion according to the newspaper report. So what you see, that the wealth or the income of MNCs are in most cases more than that of the smaller countries, and that's why they have the power to manipulate, they have the wider connectivity, and so the other private players of a small magnitude can't match with the power of MNCs. Another point is industrial sickness, and India always suffers on this count, and that's why because of the industrial sickness, NPA, non-performing assets, which are more than 33,000 crore, is still to be taken from these owners of industry, and this is one of the biggest problems that India is facing. These private players always divert their capital from loss-making industry or minimum profit-making industry to other companies, thereby causing industrial sickness, and in the process they then shut up industry, and the loans taken by different banks becomes outstanding or non-performing assets. So this is one of the important problems that private sectors is facing. Weakness of private sectors. What are the important weaknesses of private sectors? The benefit of high growth did not trickle down. As I have already told you earlier, that one of the objectives of our planners was that the higher growth in the economy and the role played by public sector will go down to the downtrodden people, lowest rung of the society. But this did not happen in large measure. What we see, that this trickling down effect did not happen, and so India turned out one of the world's most unequal country. As I have told you, that 1% of the richest person have 22% of the national income of India, and 10%, the upper 10% people or the capitalists have 57% of the national income of India. So as you can see that how in the midst of poverty there is an elite classes of rich people. So this is just a disturbing fact. This is wrong for the health of our body politic. Disinvestment of the public sector resulted into rich becoming more richer, and again greater access to opportunity by the rich, and the gap between the haves and have-nots became wider with the passage of time. Privatization led to denial of basic human needs of the majority of people. It led to wanton destruction of the natural resources, thereby causing ecological imbalance in the society. And I have already told you that the most important impulse or motive for the private player is to earn profit. And that's why this privatization have led wanton destruction of natural resources, thereby causing ecological imbalance in our society. This is a very, very important or the bad impact of privatization in India. Under frustration, the majority of people now vote for authoritarian regime. Again, political parties whip up the sentiments of nationalism in order to divert the majority of people or the poor people from the real issues, and people lost hope in the capacity of democracy and secularism. What is the difference between democratic system and communist system? Communist system is governed by a totalitarian regime whereby there is no opposition against their decision, and this results into quick action. But in the democratic system, what we find, that there is an opposition party, there may be change after 5 years in the contour of government. Another party can take over the administration, they can win election. So there is a bit slow process in democracy. And since the widening chasm between the poor and the rich is getting wider and wider with the passage of time, people are losing hope in the capacity of democracy and secularism. This will be bad for the body politic of India. What conclusion we may draw from this topic? Number one, it is clear that too much dependency on the private sector will create wide chasm between different classes of people. Number one, this is not a good sign for the growth of healthy democracy. Number three, a mixed role of public sector and private sector is necessary, and government cannot absolve itself from the responsibility of private poverty alleviation. To create wealth and durable assets at bottom are necessary for the body politic of India. Why I am telling this? Because you know that the bottom 50% of the population of India have very much minimum durable assets to fall back upon, rainy days. And so it is necessary that durable assets must be created for the bottom 50% of the population. Otherwise, people will get dissatisfied with the democratic system. They may take law in their own hands, thereby causing law and order situation. And this will be not a good sign for our democracy. If you like this lecture, please share and subscribe. Please boost my morale. Please tell your friend that this is a free channel. Just write down AGIS Academy on YouTube and subscribe. Open the playlist. You will find numerous videos